Hello and welcome to the Happy as Annie YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be comparing two tarot cards that often get confused with one another. We're going to be looking at Justice and Judgment from the Major Arcana.
Welcome to the Happy as Annie YouTube channel. Let's talk about tarot.
Many tarot readers confuse the Justice and Judgment cards, and I think it's mainly because of the names of the cards. And this happens especially with the Major Arcana cards because those are the cards that all have a name at the bottom. So some cards are more specifically or aptly named than others. But there are quite a few, in addition to these two cards, that are actually coming to mind that maybe have slightly confusing names that tend to lead us astray if we focus too much on that name. The Lovers card comes to mind, for example. That card is not just about lovers and sex and romantic relationships, but with a name like Lovers, it totally makes sense that one might think that. The Hermit is another card that comes to mind. A hermit is someone who deliberately lives a solitary life away from others. So I think if we focus too much on the name, the Hermit, we lose a lot of the nuance and layers of what the Hermit card really embodies. And I think the same can be said about these two cards. In fact, the name Justice and Judgment are so similar that I think that is probably the main reason why people think these cards are the same thing, or they don't know quite how to interpret them differently when they come up in a tarot reading. Now let's talk about the similarity first. So I'm going to start with Justice. Now when we think of the word justice, and I don't even care about the image yet, but we can kind of talk about the image too. The word justice in our modern society probably makes a lot of us think about a court of law. Former lawyer here, I definitely think of a court of law when I'm thinking of notions of justice. So we're thinking of being judged for our actions, trying to get justice. So we either feel like we've been wronged and we want to be compensated for that wrong, or we think that someone else has done wrong and we want them to be punished, okay? So the idea of justice, especially when it comes to receiving justice from a judge figure or some official body or system, makes us think of the word judgment, right? You receive a judgment in a court of law, and I think that's where the confusion comes in. However, whereas the Justice card does deal with all these things we're talking about, being compensated for your work, notions of fairness, reaping what you sow, balancing right and wrong, good and bad. I hate to think of the world in terms of binaries, but I'm going with that because we have the binary of the scales of justice in this card. But anytime we pull this card, Justice, we're dealing with cause and effect or the consequences of our actions. Okay. Now, Judgment, however, even though it sounds like a justice and court of law related word, in the world of tarot, judgment has nothing to do with that. Judgment in the tarot is actually based on the religious, specifically Christian notion of judgment, the final judgment. So in the Bible, the second coming of Christ, the second coming of Jesus is also known as the final judgment. And this is when all souls will, be judged and they'll either come up to heaven or go to hell or whatever the story, however the story goes, okay? And so if you know that, especially in the Rider Waite deck, which was created with a lot of religious imagery in mind, then the word judgment, although it does imply that we are being judged, it doesn't really mean we're being judged in the sense of a court of law. It refers to the final judgment where you get to finally come home to your Savior, to your people, to your rightful place, okay? And if we look at the imagery, that becomes so beautiful and clear. We can extrapolate on that more specific idea to just say, okay, more generally, look at the people in this card. They're so happy to be called home, right? They have meaning, they feel their soul's worth, right? They have purpose, they have found their home, they found their tribe, they found their community, they have meaning and purpose in their life. And this can appear in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be religious, although it could be if that's what resonates with you. It could be finally finding a vocation or career that speaks to you. It could be finally making some kind of lifestyle change that allows you to be your authentic self. Because remember, these people are nude, right? Anytime you see nudity in the tarot, that's talking about being vulnerable and authentic, right? You're not hiding anything. You're not pretending to be something you're not. You are your true and authentic self, and that's how you find beauty and meaning and true love and joy in life. So again, the similarities between these cards are in that notion of judgment, in which we are receiving some kind of judgment about ourselves or our character. But whereas justice, my camera is opposite, so I never know what my hands are doing. Whereas justice is more about reaping what you sow, consequences of our actions, recognizing cause and effect, weighing pros and cons, weighing benefits and costs. The judgment card is not so transactional and not so rule-based. The judgment card, again, has that religious, spiritual flavor to it, which means it's this soul-based feeling of finally knowing that you belong, having a sense of purpose and belonging. The lesson here is that sometimes the names of the tarot cards aren't exactly what the cards mean. So let me know how you feel now about these two cards. Leave me a comment below, and if you can think of any other cards where the name might be what's distracting or confusing you a bit, put those in the comments as well. If you want more videos from me, make sure you subscribe so you are notified of them. And if you like this video, I always love seeing a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching.